Oh man, do I have one for you guys. Here we go. There exists a threat, from anti-hunting groups to politicians trying to give our land away, and we won't stand for it. Those vast western landscapes provide the space for our wildlife to thrive, and a place for hunters and anglers to fuel the fire that sparks their soul. In this show, we share our love of hunting, fishing, and conservation. Here, we provide the foundation to meet these threats through passion and the grit of the American outdoorsman. Welcome to the Western Huntsman Podcast. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of the Western Huntsman Podcast. This is Jim Huntsman, the host, and I'm coming at you from the Broken Tine studio right here in Clark Fork, Idaho, in snowy Clark Fork, Idaho. I was able to kind of dig a trench through the snow to get to the studio here, so I've got a really good one for you today. If you guys listened a few weeks back, I had Guy from Western Contours on, and we apparently made an impact there because I have never had an episode received so much feedback, both good and bad, but mostly good. And so that is good that it was mostly good. We had a conversation about hunters and some of the behavioral things that hunters are doing, both on social media and perceptions and just a wide range of topics that we talked about that we feel are important that hunters need to focus on for a while if we're concerned about the future of hunting. And so that is going to be along the lines of what we're talking about today, but Guy and I have added a very dangerous element to this conversation by bringing on Joe Giglia from ElkBros.
A real sleazy one.
A real sleazy one. So guys, give it up and welcome Joe Giglia from ElkBros and Guy Duplantier from Western Contours. How you guys doing?
Evening, boys.
Hey, I'm dangerous, man. I'm ready. I'm ready to rock, man.
Yeah, I'll bet you are. Well, you guys are already fired up. We've been talking for 20 minutes already. I should have recorded that. Guy was secretly recording us.
I was secretly recording it.
Jeez.
Hey, so hold on. You said we got some bad comments. Last time I talked, we only had good. So what was the bad?
We had a couple of people. I got a couple of emails, and mind you, when I say we got some serious feedback, like, I don't know if I have 2 or 3 episodes that if you combined all the emails and messages I got would equal the amount I got off of that one. And
that's good, man.
Yeah, and so some of them were I did have some people that disagreed with some of the stuff we talked about, and that is fine. Because I'm always of the opinion that disagreement is healthy and fine. It's okay. As long as it doesn't get nasty and we could talk about it, like grown-ups do, right? And with you putting me on the spot, I can't specifically remember what the disagreement was. I think I had like 3 messages that were like something along the. I think we were talking about how hunters focus too much on hunting and not enough on. I don't remember. Anyway, I'd have to look it up, man, and I don't have it on me.
But
that's okay.
It would have been nice to address those things, right? So maybe we could, turn that maybe turn that person around, but also, listen to what they had to say, and then maybe that's a correction, of course, for us. So that's why I was asking.
And I think
right?
if you're gonna,
to your point, with those different opinions,
if you're gonna dig into it, here's what I'll tell you. Is when I say it is good to have some disagreement and discussion around what those disagreements might be and different ideas as to solutions to some of the problems we face, that is what is healthy. But when people send me nasty messages and it's just kind of like this hate-filled rant of BS, I don't pay attention to it, and that's really what it was. And honestly, that's nothing new on my show. I'll get some hate mail periodically.
You can email me at guy@westerncontours.com if you want to throw hate. I want to get into that.
Yeah.
So let's
I'm good with that.
Let's share the hate.
Yeah,
at the same time.
I'm good with that, man.
But the thing about hate mail is just like jokes. there's an element of truth or element of feeling in all of that. And so, finding out what that is and trying to find a solution instead of just being part of the problem,
Exactly.
It's got its pluses. I mean, that's why we are where we are. With a lot of this stuff is because there is not conversation happening anymore. It is these jabs, it is these emotions, it is these digs, and we as a hunting community, man, we're just as guilty of it as anybody, man, within ourselves. So
yeah, very true. Well,
yeah, if it struck a chord, I mean, that says a lot to me right there, right?
It did, and that's kind of the goal with this, right? That's why we're talking, and we want to strike a chord, and we want to make an impact, and you guys are positive influences on the hunting community, and I feel like if we all just get some unity out of this, that I think that's going to be a key, and that kind of leads me to one of the emails that I wanted to read specifically to you, Guy, but it's a really good idea, because this is one of the things we talked about. I'll just read it. It's from a listener named James Jones, and he sent it in. I think I asked him if it was okay if I said his name, but I'm sure it is.
Too late now, James.
Sorry, James. If it's not, you're going to be famous, man. No.
Hold it against Jim and not Joe and Guy.
My fault.
Jim's fault.
My fault. So it says, Jim, I was listening to the podcast with Guy from Western Contours. Great interview. The one thing that caught my ear was the raffle that Guy had and was so disappointed on the turnout. You've interviewed a lot of great other people that has a podcast of their own. Is there a way that other podcasts could come together and do a joint raffle? Joint raffle, sorry. I'm trying to read it here. If I would have known about the raffle, I would have definitely signed up for it, probably more than once at $5 a draw, but I am not a consistent listener to Guy's podcast and didn't know about it or even heard about it, but listened to a few other podcasts of people that you have had on your podcast. I hope it makes sense what you're trying to get across. If you had, let's say, 5 podcasts all doing the same raffle, it would work out and a lot better. Thanks. Okay, so basically what he's saying there is there's people that listen to blue-collar elk hunting, right? That don't listen to the Western Huntsman.
Very few, but we have a couple.
There's people that listen to Western Contours that don't listen to the Western Huntsman. There's people that listen to my show that don't listen to some of the other shows. So what he's kind of getting at is instead of just one platform trying to run like a raffle to raise money for, Sportsman's Alliance, for just throw that out there. Is having multiple platforms kind of come together, and I thought it was a good idea, and I'd be up for it if you guys are up for it, doing something along those lines.
So I'm gonna can I address it real quick?
Yeah.
The first problem is he doesn't listen to my podcast consistently. And outside of that, man, I would agree, right? The hardest part is, well, I guess it's not a hard part, is that some of us that we deal with certain companies, be it on an affiliate basis or whatever, what have you. Mm-hmm. So there's lines there, right, to keep.
Yeah, that thought popped into my mind too.
Yeah, but ultimately for me, I would do it, right? And if a company that backs me or is helping me, or I have an affiliate code, whatever it is, had an issue with us trying to promote what that raffle was promoting or pushing, I would have to have a conversation with them about that, right? And one of the reasons for me that is, I don't want to be pushy, hey Jim, hey Joe, hey, because there's a lot of ask, right? There's a lot of ask of all of us. And sometimes our views don't necessarily align with the people that we're supporting, the companies that we're supporting, the NPOs that we're supporting. So, and it's just wanting to do it, so you do it, right? Maybe you don't give it all the thought, but I think that's a great idea, to come together in that realm. And then I just want to address, so thank you for that idea. Then I want to address the disappointment part of it, right? And I don't know how that sounds, right? But when I heard that right now, it made me feel like, oh, dude, did I come off like that? And part of me is like, I'm sorry that I came off like that, but the other part of me is like, I'm really not sorry because
sorry, but not sorry.
Yeah, I want us to do more, and I don't have a huge platform, right? So I get the limited reach, but I think I said it on there, right? I have, just on IG, I have X amount of followers. If that was $1 or $5, right, we might have funded something for Sportsman's Alliance, for the next 3 or 4 months or something, or help them with an ad campaign, and that's really where the disappointment part of it comes in, because I feel like I failed. Is the bigger thing. Like, I wanted to do more. I had a bigger expectation, and I let the people that supported that raffle down, and the companies that supported that raffle down, and Sportsman's Alliance down.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. And I think that disappointment, when you talk about that, I've been disappointed in that same way as well. And it's a disappointment not in anybody particular, but there is a level of disappointment in the level of commitment that maybe people talk about how they have a level of commitment, but aren't willing to put their money where their mouth is. And that might sound harsh, but I mean, we need to talk in harsh terms to solve a lot of these issues. Like, we need people to step up. We need people to put their money where their mouth is. Like, if this is important to you, then we need to come together and come up with some solutions. And that solution having like a multi-platform raffle, that's one thing, right? There's other things we can come up with, and that's kind of what we're going to talk about on this show. But there's a lot of different approaches to this. The disappointment comes in when we feel like we have a level of support to achieve these objectives that are kind of mutually beneficial to all hunters, but when it comes down to it, the support just really doesn't show up, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think a big part of that, Jim, is that a lot of people bring their own, it's actually part of the symptom for what's going on with us in our community anyway, is that people bring their own thought processes, their own outlook, their own divisions, and how they think about what and how things should go within our industry or within our outdoor lifestyle. As to, for example, when you have an organization like Sportsman's Alliance, or you have the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, as they get bigger and as they start to support the things they support, people start to nitpick at, but I don't support that. Well, they said something there that I don't agree with. Well, that's fine and good. Again, I think this is part of the problem with what we are trying to do as being unified, is that everybody wants to nitpick as to what part works for them and what part doesn't, instead of protecting our overall outdoor lifestyle and being a part of the conversation with those groups. I mean, part of the problem is people don't have the time to do it. They're living lives. That's exactly what you were talking about before, both of you, is that, we all get caught up in that. But having somebody that is doing that 24/7 and looking at that, that's going to be a plus. If they're not doing it exactly the way we feel that they should be doing it, well, our voice is within that family where we get to have those conversations. So I think it's better that we get behind those organizations, because there's things that are said. I mean, Guy, you and I have conversations. I think, Jim, you and I have conversations. I am a supporter of Sportsman's Alliance. I mean, I'm a paid supporter of that. Do they say everything that I feel they should say? No. Should I have those conversations? Well, heck yeah, man. If I want to be a part of that change, it's better for me to talk to people within that community that understand where we can do growing and growth in between all of us and go out on a united front. It's that. Yeah. I think it's critical that we get behind organizations that support our outdoor lifestyle and promote that and educate and help fight for, than fighting amongst ourselves, man. We have to do things to be part of the solution instead of continually being part of the problem.
Man, that's
and
a great
that
point.
Was your episode of the Western Huntsman for this week. Thank you, Mr. Joe Giglia.
Thanks, Joe. We'll just wrap it up.
Yeah, I mean, that's the mic drop, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I was sitting in there, and this is kind of ironic for me to be watching. I was watching The Matrix Reloaded. I don't know why. I was sitting there waiting for this, and it came up, so I started watching it, and I was a few minutes in, and it kind of made me laugh going into this conversation, because he's sitting there and he's talking to the lady, and she says, we're all here to do what we're all here to do. And the only way that we get there is together. And she's talking about the future, right? I mean, that is what Joe just said. The only way that we get there is together.
Yep.
If we want to see this the way whatever your outlook is, right? I don't care if you're slinging 600 grain, wood arrows, or, lightning fast carbon. The only way we see the future and stop losing opportunity and stop losing, numbers, and we could talk about numbers and where those are all at, is together. It's a united front and voicing it. And just like Joe said, he supports Sportsmen's Alliance. That's where, that's where my head is at. And it may not align. You may not align with Sportsmen's Alliance. It may be Mule Deer Foundation, right? But you got to align with something and make sure that it's all full circle, right? Don't forget about the guys that are, trapping in New Mexico, case in point, right? Forget about those guys that are trapping in Washington. Forget about those guys, because you don't do it.
Yeah.
We're gonna lose it if we're separated. It's sad, man.
Well, I want to talk about when we boil all this out and shake it out, right, and get down to like this foundational level. I want to talk about what the problems are, because we could talk about, how we need to be unified and all this stuff and come up with some solutions, and all that is great, but we really need to identify. It's like if I'm an alcoholic, I need to identify that I'm an alcoholic. What do they call that? The first step
in recognizing getting better, right?
So let's recognize it. And I want to go back, and I want to kind of throw myself under the bus as to what I'm trying to get at here. When I was in my 20s, I was a lot worse at hunting than I am now, and that's saying something. All right, that's not a small statement. But I remember, when I'm in my 20s, hunting to me was a huge part of my life, and it was really important to me, but I was finding that it was like this egocentric thing for me. And this was before social media. It was a thing where I wanted people to think that I was a really good hunter, right? And right. I'm just admitting it. And I think a lot of people are like this. I know a lot of people that throughout my life very rarely ever put a tag on anything, but they talked as if they were experts. And not that there's anything particularly wrong with that in itself, but what it exposes is the ego that is behind hunting. And hunting is, in a lot of ways, like a lot of other, I hate to use the word art form, but there is but it is kind of an art. It's a craft. And it's something that is very personal. It's something that is usually very deep-seated in an individual, man or woman. It's something that is, in many of us, seated in our childhood, or a passion that grew out of an experience when we became adults, and now it's got us, locked into this, almost obsession level lifestyle that we all love. And so it's a lot like when I was, and Guy, you can attest to this, playing in a band. There was a lot of ego involved in that, right? You want to be the best drummer, you want to be the best bassist, or the most gigging band on the local scene, or whatever. And
we're just trying to get bras thrown on the stage, bro.
Yeah, I mean, there's that part. And I guess the point is I want to highlight the essential ego draw. I don't know if I'm saying that right. That probably doesn't even make any sense. But
following you, though. We're following
people that don't know what those words mean will think I'm really smart. But do you guys know what I'm getting at? The very personalized thing that hunting is, right? And the ego that is behind hunting. And so this gets exacerbated when we're talking about like social media and Facebook, and when back in the day when I was a kid, there was still ego involved in hunting, but it wasn't on the level that it is now because it was what you and I talked about, Guy, face-to-face. When you talk hunting, it was face-to-face or over the phone or whatever. It was in-person communication. It wasn't somebody in Idaho sitting behind a keyboard talking smack to somebody in New Mexico for the kind of bow they're using or the size of the elk they took or anything along those lines. And so via this improved advanced level of communication that we all have, that we're connected and can just chime in whenever to whoever, has helped in a lot of ways, but it's also broadened the hostility in terms of what hunting is, as to how it relates to our egos and how hunting can feed our egos. And I think that we need to identify that hunting can feed your ego in a very negative way as well as in a positive way, depending on your outlook. And do you guys have anything to add to that?
I just think all of that is, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Is back in your 20s, is back when you're 16, 17, 18. You see people
rotary phones.
Well, it's not even that. It's just the whole rite of passage and age and maturity type thing.
Yep.
Ego can be a positive thing. It can be a negative thing. And I think tempered with some perspective and age and mentorship, all of that starts to come into the right realm. But it's also a driving force. It's a reason to work hard. It has a lot to it. And I don't know that is so much the problem and with social media or how we do all this. I think all of it is, you're right. When ego is to the point where you're putting other people down just to raise yourself up, when it becomes a crab theory, when you can't listen to other people because, they're peons and everything and you're right, well, those people end up finding themselves out on an island anyway. That's only going to last so long. Mm-hmm. So, I just hate the destructive part of it. And here's where I hate it is, I think there's two fronts, Jim. I think where we're at right now, and I'm going to give you my commentary as food for thought, all right? Because I listened to y'all's last podcast as well. I loved it, man. I just ate it up, and I was one of those people commented, and I threw in the hate mail. No, just
that makes a lot of sense. That's where some of those emails came from, huh?
But I actually think our problem exists on two fronts, and I think it's the division that we do amongst ourselves for whatever reason, and I think some of that is industry driven. I think there's other garbage that we bring to the table that I'm going to talk about as well. But I think it's also the divisiveness that we create with people outside of us. Mm-hmm. Look, so the reason that we look at everything that's happening to hunting these days is we talk about anti-hunters, the anti-hunting bills. All of the things. What is the percentage of us that hunt in the United States today? Anybody got any numbers on that?
Generally less than 10%.
Yeah, absolutely. When back in the 70s, it was something like high 24, 30%, mm-hmm. something like that.
Yeah, it peaked out like late 70s, early 80s. Don't quote me on this, but I believe it was in the low 30 percentile.
Yeah, and so you see all this. So our numbers are really going down, and yet. Now, we can say that this is anti-hunting, but what we do is we start rewording and adding additional labels and stereotypes for all of the things that we don't like, either personally or through our religion or through our politics, and we throw that in the pile as anti-hunters, man. Oh, I'm sorry. I had somebody that just came on. My headphones started beeping. I thought I lost you for a second. Yeah. Sorry about that. But what we need to do is we need to doggone refocus and understand that anti-hunters are anti-hunters. That just because somebody is a non-hunter doesn't make them an anti-hunter. Just because they're a conservationist doesn't make them an anti-hunter. In fact, nothing could be further from the truth.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, think about this. How many men and women that hunt have spouses that choose not to hunt?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, are they anti-hunters because they are non-hunters? No.
And to that point, Joe, just real quick, that is, I think, what our focus should be. Are those people that aren't hunters, but they're not anti-hunters? Like my wife is one of those. But
absolutely.
She'll get on my case if I don't get enough wild game meat in the freezer. But there goes my phone now. That's the joys of recording over the phone. She'll get on my case if I don't bring home enough, wild game meat. But yet she doesn't want to go out and do it. And then there's families that nobody in the family hunts, right? They're not opposed and they're not for. And I guess the point I'm trying to make so you can get back to your point there is that is what our focus should be is making sure that those types of people don't fall into the anti-hunting category because they've seen so much negativity come out of the hunting side.
Absolutely.
Just a point I wanted to throw out.
Yeah, because what they've done is, go ahead.
Should they be our focus? Sorry, JoJo. Should they be our focus though? I mean,
when it comes to what I guess what I'm getting at there, Guy, is when we're talking about messaging and how we're presenting as hunters, that it should be because our future depends on whether or not their opinion is going to levitate towards an anti-hunting feeling or a continue on with how they're at. They don't really have an opinion about it. Them not having an opinion about it or even giving them a taste of positivity that comes out of hunting should be a key factor in the future of hunting. And that's my opinion.
But that would be, to Joe's point, would be us culling our infighting, right? And we're already or always on the defensive. So if we're focusing on the non-hunting demographic that doesn't really have an opinion, if we can cull our infighting, then can we take some of that energy and place it on the antis? Because the antis, they don't really have the infighting. They want to see the end of this, right? But our focus isn't on them or improving ourselves, right? Like if we focus on what they're doing, and there's some lessons to be learned from them. They've played a great game over the years, right?
Yep.
If we can hone in on that, I think we're better off. If they don't have an opinion, hey, if you want to come in the fold, this is the fold. But if we're representing hunting in a light that doesn't give the antis fuel and stop the infighting, which is fuel for them, in my opinion, then we're doing ourselves a better justice. And we're able to take our focus to, air quote, the enemy.
I agree with most of what you said there, Guy. But there's some disagreement there, and it's probably because you probably shoot a 6.5 Creedmoor, and things like that.
Well, what I'm trying to say is our infighting is something that we absolutely have to work on. I mean, we talked about the United Front, but the other thing is we got to quit alienating and throwing these other people into a negative stance, into a defensive stance that really could end up being allies for us instead of us saying, oh, you're a vegan, or, having that urban rural thing, or, just because they're a non-hunter, or let's say that they're I hate the daggum liberal word and conservative words. It just drives me nuts, that pigeonholing that happens there. Because, people constantly throw that somebody is an anti-hunter because they're a liberal.
So, Joe...
go ahead.
You don't like it when I make Democrat jokes?
Oh, buddy, look, I am the easiest. You forget the crew that I travel with, man. I don't.
Clearly, I'm totally kidding, but I want to expand on what you just said there, Joe. Can you expand on when you talk about all jokes aside, because I'm guilty of what you just said, and I think that what happens is we get it in our mind like vegans are just anti-hunters, right? And that's because there is a percentage of vegans that are very vocal and put out things like this Proposition I-13 or something in Oregon. I can't remember the name of it.
I-13.
Where it's like, oh, we're going to get rid of ranching and farming and artificial insemination of cattle and hunting and agriculture. All this stuff. It's just bizarre. I mean, it's a bizarre. Getting back, Joe, I want you to expand on what you mean by that, because that's what pops into our minds. I think a lot of the times we hear vegan, we think that, right? Oh man, they're coming after us because they're vegan.
Well, it's the same thing that people do with hunters, man. They make us a political point instead of a chosen lifestyle. Hunting is a lifestyle. It is not
the one thing I would challenge you, and I really sorry about cutting you off there.
No, it's all right.
But the one thing I would challenge that point is I don't feel like hunters on a mass scale have this really loud vocal minority that goes out there and attacks vegans' lifestyle just for the sake of them being vegan, as in the same way that small vegan majority that's very vocal attacks our lifestyle.
My point.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I hear you, but again, it's with anything. It's kind of like, we always talk about California being caught up a certain political way in California.
Liberals.
Whereas I mean, but you can go on the streets of California, man, and you could go and ask 100 people political questions. You're going to get 10%. They're going to give you another 10. They're like, what? What are you talking about, man?
Most of them don't even know.
They could friggin' care less about some of that stuff. It's just the vocal part of it that ends up putting something on everybody. I mean, that's the way it is with anything. I mean, you belong to an organization. You can have an organization of 1,000 people, but how many of those 1,000 are really doing the work, man? There's 10 of them that show up all the time, and they're the loudest, they're more vocal. And so everybody in that group gets tagged with whatever goes on with that. So the point that I'm trying to make is that the anti-hunters are found in every walk of life, man. They're meat eaters, vegetarians, urbanites, rural, Democrats, Republicans, folks of every religion, man. They are anti-hunters. It's not something where, they fall in because they're a certain race, creed, color. It's not that way. It's how they believe. I know plenty of meat eaters that are anti-hunters, and that just drives me crazy, when we have that argument. But it is. So I think what we have to do is quit murking up the water and throwing our personal tolerations, our own political issues into the mix. And that's what we do when emotions start happening, man. We start, I was just listening I was looking on a social media platform the other day where somebody had been trolled and they got attacked by a non-hunter that called her murderer, blah, 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 all these different things. Well, that person responded in an awesome way, educating. And it's not that you're necessarily going to educate that troll. No. Because a lot of times they don't want to hear it, right? But you are educating those other people that might be reading that or taking part in that. And there was a lot of positive comments. Then when somebody else came in and said, well, that troll probably wears 3 masks and has had all their inoculations. And I was like,
yeah.
Here we went, man. Yeah, we brought in this other garbage that distracted from our focus, that had nothing to do with it. What is somebody's line of thinking on COVID have to do with what we're trying to do as far as hunters? You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, absolutely. I don't know how a virus became this polarizing political statement, but it has.
But yeah, and that's just part of the argument. I hear it all the time in different ways, it's what happens is we get lazy, Jim. We get lazy in attacking people because it's so much easier to say that they're a liberal or they're a conservative or, they're a vegan or they're an anti. I mean, we just get real lazy instead of, calling a spade and sticking with that, right?
Is that lazy or is that unarmed? That's how I'm starting to believe that it's unarmed, right? It's not a lazy stance, but
what do you mean by that?
Well,
they have a gun
I'll relate it to hunting, right? What's our argument as why we hunt? What is the 95% of the time answer? To fill the freezer. That does not tell an anti-hunter or a non-hunter the whole story, right? But we can't have the conversation beyond that because that's been the narrative for so GD long. Well, I do have to fill the freezer, and it's what I want to do. You can't go into the battle or the gunfight with a knife. We know that, right? It's typically a losing battle. We go into these things unarmed, and people are already swayed, right? You got a staunch conservative, and you got a liberal there, and you guys are going to battle, and then it's going to go fisticuffs as soon as you got some support, just like that thread. And I find more times than not that people are unarmed for the conversation. They're not there to have a conversation as to, let me give you my viewpoints and why, and try and sway you in your thought process, but give you their opinion based on facts, and a little emotion and feeling there is fine. But that kind of goes back to my point where, as hunters, why don't we focus on the anti-hunters, right? If we have the backing of hunters and the infighting is another conversation, why wouldn't I don't need to convert a hunter. I don't need to convert a non-hunter. I need to change the opinion and dwindle the numbers on the anti-side. I need to take my enemy and make my enemy my friend.
But you need at the same time not to alienate that non-hunter.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
I think that's a tall order, man.
It absolutely it is. But the problem is, why are they winning? Why are they winning? Because they can go in with their data, and they can tug on emotion, and they can grab those people. Why are we falling? Because the conversation always ends up with, and I'm saying always, and excuse me, folks, for broad stroking, I'll fill in the freezer. Right? That isn't the only reason. I go out, and I'll go back to the ego thing. I go out in September to kill my mother effing ego. I don't want to have any shroud of eagle.
You need a little humble soup.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
I want the entire humble pie during September. Right? That is one of my things. I'm going to go kick the out of you, Guy. So when you come back, you're a better man. That is it.
I want to kind of
don't tell that story.
Exactly. No, I agree with that. And I want to just kind of touch on that one of the points you were making there. When you're talking about the difference between active hunters and active anti-hunters, and let's say, just for the sake of, I don't know if you want to call it the side of the pendulum or whatever, you've got 10% of, and we're just talking about the states, the United States. And I imagine that it is pretty similar, but it might be a little lopsided one side for our friends in Canada, but I'm not totally sure. I'll have to, I got my buddy Tim Reamer up there. He might be able to, if you're listening to this, Tim, fill me in on this and let me know how either off or right I am. But let's talk about the United States and this pendulum swing, or however you want to classify that. But you've got 10% of the population that are active hunters, and that's high. That's a high guesstimate right there.
Right.
And then you've got, on the complete opposite side, you've got the 10% of the anti-hunters, and it's the 80% in between that could really make the difference. So what I want to say, what the big difference between an active hunter and an anti-hunter, when you're looking at those two groups, there is a huge difference. And you asked the question, Guy, why are they so effective? Why are anti-hunters so effective? Because anti-hunters have an activist mission. That's why. This is not something that they were just like, as for me, for example, I was born into a hunting family. I was out there tripping over logs trying to keep up with my dad when I was 4 years old. And this is just what is normal, right? This is my life. This is how I was raised. It is a part of me in a way that cannot be taken out of my mentality or my soul to get really dramatic. Now, on anti-hunter, on the complete opposite side, this is an activist position, so they have to have a mission. Our mission is just a vague way to say that we're going to keep hunting. We want to go hunting. What's going to be our next tag? What kind of points do I have in this state? What kind of weapon do I want to buy? I like this camo. I like these boots. I like that pack. And it's very individualistic, and it's very selfish and self-centered, which is normal for things that are similar in terms of lifestyle as hunting. When you go back and you look at the anti-hunting side, and I'm just trying to kind of paint a picture of why and why it's relevant that we know this. You look at the activist side. These are the anti-hunters that are actively seeking and working to shut hunting down, like the folks over there, like the Humane Society of the United States over there in Washington that has got their way with the spring bear hunt. When we're looking at those folks, they have an activist mission, and so when they see, we see somebody choosing a different weapon, and so we want to justify our own decision, and I want to shoot a 300 Win Mag, so that person isn't as good or as smart as I am because they're shooting a 6.5 Creedmoor. What they're looking at is, I'm going to be a part of this organization because we're going to shut down this particular hunt. And you know what? My friends over here at the Center for Biological Diversity, hopefully they'll chime in and help us too, because their goal is the same. And their goal is to get rid of hunting because it is a very much out of the norm, non-human approach to a very natural thing, and it makes you, in order to have that kind of objective, you must be an activist type kind of mindset. You must be fanatical in that sense. And the problem that we have when it comes from that side is they draw in the people from that 80% group that we were talking about, and there you go. They draw them in, the people that are just kind of on the edge. They're very good at propagating messages in a way that tugs at the heartstrings of that 80%. And so that 80%, you get these people pulling out their checkbooks and donating $25 here and $100 there and liking their posts on social media. And that's how that site grows, and that's why they're so much more effective.
Okay, so hashtag a new shirt, hashtag activist hunter. Why aren't we know that. You just explained it.
Dude, I'm going to trademark that.
Right?
No, I'm
why
kidding.
Are we not taking that stance, or why are we not coming together in that manner if we care so much about what we do?
And before you jump on that point, even more importantly, why are we alienating those other 80% by politicizing hunting and saying that, oh, you're a vegan, or you're a liberal, or you're a Democrat, or you're a Republican, and so you don't belong with us. We are throwing out these labels and names and calling it. We've just brought in this very divisive attitude that has just filtered through all of these political things that have happened, and we are alienating people in that 80% who we are going to need when that 10% of antis are making the moves that they're making. And we're making it real easy for people to go, well, yeah, I mean, they already feel uncomfortable with how they're being treated, man. You brought up the vegans, for example, and I've talked to you about this, that my own daughter is a vegan. Now, I would say in the purest sense of the word, no, because she will at times still eat wild game, but she will not eat meat that she doesn't know where it's come from. If it hasn't come from the woods, man, she doesn't do that. And yet, most of the time, in fact, she has a hard time with proteins now because she's been living vegan so long, but she hunts. She hunts with me. She supports the hunting.
I was blown away when you told me that.
Well, but why, man? I mean,
because it's not the
how she eats.
Yeah, but it's not the normal. It's not the norm, right? There's not. I would be super curious to know if I could count more than just what's on my fingers. How many people are vegans and hunters? It's a very unique thing, and it's super cool, actually.
Well, to me, I couldn't tell you, Jim, because I really don't know, how many vegans out there, choose to do one with the other. But I know that they choose a particular lifestyle of what they eat. That's what it's all about, right? It's not about how they work. It's not about, what their religion or your political affiliation is, because of their lifestyle, what they've chosen to eat and put in their body. If anybody should understand and align with other people on what they choose to eat and put in their body, they would understand that. So why are we alienating them just because of what they choose or how they choose to eat? Why are we saying, and I've heard people say this, that, all antis want is a vegan utopia. No, they don't want people hunting and shooting animals. That's what they want. Has nothing to do with whether or not they want everybody to eat only vegetables. Like I said, there's a lot of antis out there that eat meat, man. So, not
to get off topic there, but I'd be super interested to see how that Thanksgiving conversation goes when you've got a daughter that's a vegan. Now, granted, your daughter is unique, okay, because she's a hunter and she supports what you do and you support what she does and all that kind of stuff. But a vegan sitting there with her dad, who is Coach Joe Giglia of the Elk Hunting Blue Collar Academy, or and so it's quite the dichotomy, if you will. But I want you to expand on that, Joe, in a way. Oh, sorry, Guy, go ahead, man.
No worries. You have dietary vegans and you have ethical vegans, right? Mm-hmm. Now the dietary vegans, they may go out, and that's Joe's daughter, right? But a true ethical vegan, that's somebody that's just going out. I shouldn't say going out. They're going out, but they care about animals so much, right? They don't want to take any life, an animal's life. Mm-hmm. So that would be the difference there.
And that's a great point.
I don't know that it's all. I think it's probably a bit more common than we would think, right? And this goes back to my earlier point, is if we shared the story outside of just the freezer filling, and we shared the story of why we love it so much and what it does to us and where it takes us as a person and spiritually, I think you would have more dietary vegans and less ethical vegans, or you'd be able to make, that transfer over with some of those people. So again, why don't we focus on those?
Yeah.
So that's a really good point. And I think that between what you just said, Guy, and what Joe was saying, I think that it's important I'm not speaking for all of us, certainly, but I'll speak for me personally. It's foundationally, as a man and as a human and as a citizen of the United States of America, I could care less if somebody's a vegan. I don't care if somebody's a vegan. I don't care if they're a Republican. I don't care if they're a Democrat. I don't care if they're a hunter or they're a non-hunter. I don't care if they're a Mormon or a Catholic. I don't care. Like I literally don't care what somebody's lifestyle choices are, and that's the beauty of America and the land of the free. The part that gets wrong, and it's generally not started by the hunting side, but where we as a nation go wrong is where we get these groups that don't have that mindset, and they think that their lifestyle is the only lifestyle that is acceptable, and so everybody else needs to change to fit their viewpoint of the world.
Is that a hunting conversation?
That is a hunting conversation, because we've got people that are, again, these are not your typical vegans or non-hunters or anything like that. We've got these people that are activists, and they want to force me to stop doing what I love to do, or how I live my life, or how I pursue my own destiny in a free country, right? And that is what I think is really bothersome to me, and that's where I get fired up, and then I become guilty because I get emotional about somebody trying to tell me how I can live my life, and I start attacking, right?
But that's a societal issue.
That is a societal issue. But we live in a society where part of us are hunters, and so it's a hunting issue as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you just hit the nail on the head. It's all about emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And we end up doing the same thing, that we start criticizing our own legislatures about going with emotion instead of the science. Or we end up doing the same thing. It all comes down to dividing with labeling and name calling, and because of emotions, man. And instead of keeping our head, and let me tell you something. Look, anti-hunters, like you said, are activists. They have a plan. All right. And what we are doing is falling into that plan. Because look, y'all, the easiest way to beat something is to divide and conquer. Absolutely. And I tell you what, I totally believe that anti-hunting groups and agendas exist in every political party or front, and encourage rhetoric that inflames emotions and creates divisions that are going to weaken our front from the inside out. I mean, you see it within our own, like you said. I mean, you throw the Creedmoor out there. I mean, that's the joke within our realm there. But,
I made a song about the Creedmoor once.
Yeah.
Please don't sing. Please don't sing.
But I mean, as soon as we start having things happen legislatively that affects our hunting, right away it becomes an urban or rural. It becomes vegan, vegetarian, meat eaters. Between them, it becomes between rich, middle class, and poor. Between hippies or homesteaders, or private and public landowners. Between trophy sport and meat harvest. Between free range and high fence, man. I mean, we create all of these divisions right in between ourselves, that weakens us from the inside out. Mm-hmm. And you don't think that those other agendas can inflame that and encourage that? Heck yes, man. So that's where I think we have to be so careful, Jim. Look, as a coach, I've learned there's 3 ways to win a game. One way is to go straight at your opponent's strongest point and just beat them at what they're best at. The second was to find the weak points and exploit them. The third way was to create the illusion of a point of attack to draw the strength of that defense while you're really attacking from the weak side. Yep. Right? And I think we are absolutely falling into the trap of letting people within political machines of whatever party into politicizing this and start attacking each other using those political vices from the inside out, man. And I think we're being manipulated. I really do. I think we really have to stop and take a look at ourselves and not let ourselves become so emotional that we destroy ourselves from the inside out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw something in the conversation with what Joe just said. Right. So
go for it.
We have a certain large social media presence and media company that's owned or was bought. A large percentage of that company was bought by folks that are known to be anti-hunting or anti-2A. Mm-hmm. That kind of, that line of thinking can be thrown into what you're saying there, right? So how do we go about that? How do folks meander through the muddied waters when it comes to things like that, right? That I don't want to say names, but that person has been a very good voice for hunting and showing a side of hunting that a lot of people wouldn't have been exposed to because the platform is large and he's very eloquent in his speaking and his writing, et cetera, et cetera. How do folks meander through that and those tough decisions that we have to make as hunters and have these questions answered? And how is that a play on our demographic and on our industry when that's going on?
We use platforms like this. We use platforms even like that and stay intelligent and stay planned in what we're doing and educate. And look, we need to educate everybody that, number one, we can be a contradiction. We can be an environmentalist and a hunter. We can be a caretaker and a killer. We are that. And we just have to we have to be plain about that and educate people intelligently about that hunters, we are predators. We've always been a critical part of this ecosystem, and that caring for animals and our ecosystem is totally compatible with our controlled use or involvement as a predator. But we have to do it intelligently, man. We have to teach those messages and not fall into that negative pit and start spiraling down because somebody took our cheese away from us, and so we just attack with anger and with emotion instead of intelligence, man. Mm-hmm. We gotta quit letting ourselves being manipulated by other people's plans.
Can we expand on the manipulation kind of thing that you're talking about? Joe, excuse me. Mm-hmm. When you say we're being manipulated, are you implying that there are organized anti-hunting efforts trolling us maybe on social media or something to divide us? That's what you're implying, right?
Well, not only that, dude, but I really think a lot of this stuff goes back to politics, man.
Oh, totally.
And you know, look, politics is about numbers. It's about votes. And the best way to guarantee numbers and votes is to polarize a public mindset with labels, divisiveness, bullying, using name-calling as much as possible to create a them and us. You know, the divisive attitude is the best survival method for those people trying to get those votes, man. Mm-hmm. And, you know, you don't want people on the fence. You don't want people that are gray. You want black and doggone white so you know where you stand, right? And yeah. It's that, and just like you said, there are people within all of these that find ways. I mean, why do you think trolls troll, man?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
you know, I mean,
yeah, totally. Because I worry about stuff like that. I think about stuff like that a lot, and I'm not some conspiracy theorist, Joe or Guy, but I think that I've gotten more. Onto that side. Yeah. I haven't quite. I've got the tinfoil, but I haven't turned it into a hat yet, kind of thing.
Right. I don't think it's conspiracy. I think it's people honestly doing what they believe in and doing as much as they can to make that come across.
Totally agree with that. Mm-hmm. But what I'm talking about is full on. I believe that on a world level, right? I believe there are countries that manipulate us to divide us, to get us to do a certain thing.
Absolutely.
And we fall for it and we go for it because, let's face it, Americans can be very naive to that kind of stuff and that kind of hostility. And so then that's like on the macro level, and now we're talking about on a micro level. And we are being manipulated. We are totally being manipulated. And like you said, Joe, it all comes from this political atmosphere of polarization and dividing. And look at the way people fight over a stupid freaking mask. You know, I have never seen anything like this in the history. Yeah. And I have my opinion. And you know what? My wife and I, we don't agree on the efficacy of a mask in regards to coronavirus. And that's okay. Are we divorced? Nope. It's okay. We don't have to be so polarized about a mask. But have you seen how fired up people get? Pro-mask, anti-mask. That is an example of what happened.
I just posted last night.
Yeah,
but
I'll chime in on it. I have an opinion on it.
Politics have been thrown into that.
Politics and where I get mad, for me. I feel like there is a lot of non-factual information out there that people fall for. And so they think that you can control another's life through a specific piece of legislation that is based on emotion to make people feel better. And that's just my opinion. And that, again, that is a large-scale version of what we're talking about. This mask issue, right. It pisses me off that it's so contentious. I don't care if somebody wears a mask. I'm not going to. But I don't care if other people do, right? I don't care. I'm not going to make fun of somebody because they feel better about. Like my wife will do that. She'll wear a mask. I'm not going to make fun of her.
Easier.
right?
You better not.
Hell no, man. I'm afraid of her. 4'10" of terror, man. I'm not gonna piss her off. But the point is we have gotten to this point in our society where we have this real dramatic reaction to everything that is so irrelevant to the whole. Does that make sense? These things are irrelevant to the whole. It is not conducive to a peaceful society to have such vitriol over who's wearing a mask. Well, here we are, and it's already almost Christmas time, and you might be buying for that hunter in your life, or you're buying for yourself. Let's start with the westernhuntsman.com. If you go there and check out the gear tab, we've got all the Tacticam equipment. So if you know or you are interested in filming your hunt, jump on the westernhuntsman.com/gear and check out the Tacticam products, from the cameras to the reveal cell cams to everything else and all the attachments. It's all there. You can also check out the merchandise tab and get you a cool t-shirt or a coffee mug or something like that. And when you do make a purchase on the westernhuntsman.com, a portion of that proceed goes towards the fight against anti-hunters. Moving on, I want to talk to you about Scree Gear. Scree is extreme mountain gear built for the wild. It's a great company with great gear that's not going to break the bank. Some of my favorite Scree items are the Hardscrabble pants. The Hardscrabble vest is super versatile. Get your complete layering system to the Kodiak pants, and I love the Bridger glassing mitt, so keep your hands warm when you're out there glassing the mountain, doing your thing. So check it out at screegear.com, and don't forget to use the promo code TheWesternHuntsman for 15% off and free shipping. Man, that's a great deal. Check it out, ScreeGear.com. Let's talk about Phelps Game Calls, the oldest sponsor on the Western Huntsman podcast. Phelps Game Calls has a full lineup of elk calls, predator calls, deer calls, duck calls, anything you need call-wise. Check it out at PhelpsGameCalls.com. Phelps is a true American story built from the blood and sweat and tears of Jason Phelps himself, from his garage to what it is now, one of the premier call companies out there on the market. I love these guys. It's a great company, great products, all backed by great warranties. Check it out at PhelpsGameCalls.com, and don't forget to use promo code Huntsman10 for 10% off. Last but not least, check out Hoffman Boots. Hoffman Boots are my go-to boot. They have been for many, many years. I love this company. They are built right here in North Idaho. And if you are in the market for a new set of mountain boots, hunting boots, you need to check them out. I love my Explorers. You can get the Explorers in the 8-inch, the 6-inch. You can get the Summits. That's another great boot. Personally, I haven't tried them, but I can attest that if they're anything as good as the Explorers, you will not be disappointed. So go to hoffmanboots.com and check it out. Use promo code, all caps lock, by the way, Huntsman10. Huntsman10 for 10% off on your next Hoffman Boots purchase. Guys, that's it for sponsors. I sure appreciate you guys tuning into the show. Don't forget to check us out on Instagram and leave us a review if you wouldn't mind. It goes a long way to help the show. Let's get back into it. Here we go.
Yeah, well, that's where they're trying to put us. That's where they're trying
that's
to
what
put
I'm
us,
saying.
Because
we were manipulated to this point. We were manipulated to this point.
Just like Joe said, divide and conquer.
Yep.
Right? If you can get us divided, we can't unify and stand up to, in my opinion, some of the tyrannical crap that's going on here in this POS. They're talking about tomorrow through January 15th statewide to put the D-hole covers back on. And I'm like, no, thank you. You can do that, right? I mean, they're going as far as, we recommend when you're having your holiday sit-downs with your family, wear a mask. Are you kidding me? Like, really? Like, what is that doing?
And that is the problem right there, is you cannot force Americans to do something like that. It can be recommended, it could be this, it could be that, but you cannot force people to do something like that because it's a medical decision. So constitutionally, kiss my ass. But Joe, I apologize. I want to
No, you're
back up
fine,
a little
dude.
bit.
I
Like
mean,
that, this
yeah,
stuff fires me up.
Yeah, but that's just it. We, within that little phase of conversation right there, the emotions that were said already let other people know that you're an idiot if you want to wear a mask with your family. When there are some people that feel like, man, if I were to bring something to my and this is I know we're on a little bit of a rabbit hole here. We can get back to the other thing, but my point that I'm trying to make is the emotions come into it to a point where within our own conversation, within what we're stating there, we're telling other people, well, you're idiots if you do this, and other people are like, but I don't feel that way, man. I feel like if I'm protecting, if that's what I choose to do, if I feel like you're not protecting me because you don't wear one, then are they idiots? So my point is why is that? Why does any of that? What does it have to do with the price?
It boils down to
Georgia,
choice,
man.
Well, it's boiling down to choice, right?
And that's where the emotion comes in, Guy. When we're not given a choice, that's where the emotional charge gets ignited. And that's in my opinion.
Where the emotional charge, when the emotional charge comes in, though, Bud, is that if I choose to wear a mask, right? If I'm following that and I choose to wear a mask, it doesn't affect anybody because I'm wearing a mask.
Exactly.
If I choose not to wear a mask, does it affect other people around me? And there's where the anger comes in.
No.
So that's a whole other conversation.
It is, and we can sit and argue about the efficacy of that all day long.
No. You're not going to skip over that. Hold on.
Uh-oh.
If we're saying you do what you want to do, you wear a mask, I'm okay with that, right? If you want to have do the vaccine, I'm okay with that. But Joe and it was funny to hear it. Joe just said, I'm not protecting him, but he's wearing the mask and has the vaccine or whatever, but he's wearing the mask, but I don't have it on, so I'm not protecting him.
But what I'm saying is that's a lot of the feeling out there.
That is. Right, but the emotion does not come out of a fact-based thing like I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, and well, let me ask you this, because we've been on this, we've been down Joe, you call it the rabbit hole here on this mask issue, but let me ask you this, you guys, think back to I don't know, 1990, right? Mm-hmm. Joe, I mean, you can go back to 1929 if you want. Whoa, who said that? No, think back to 1990.
Are you talking about when cigarette smoking
your high school days
no longer happen in the public?
No, I want to go back to 1990 and put yourself in that era, that time frame, and can you imagine in your wildest dreams that there could be such a level of contention over a mask?
I remember watching on TV, I forget which Olympics it was or prior to the Olympics, and I was seeing everybody in China wearing masks and some of these other countries that were wearing masks all the time. And I was like, and I can remember thinking to myself, how could that ever happen like that?
Yeah.
I mean, it was not even the nearest possibility in my mind, that could happen.
But your reaction wasn't there. Your reaction wasn't, oh man, they're stupid for wearing those masks.
No, it was like, man, I would hate to live in a country where I couldn't breathe the air and risk, life or something because of it. Well,
that was a smog thing or something, wasn't it?
It's both been smog.
Quality.
Yeah. And then they got hit with the bird flu, I think it was, when that happened over there too. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, there's been a few times when they China, they'll have the population basically. I don't know if it's mandated or what, but they're wearing masks quite a bit. But it's just a mindset.
No,
thing.
I couldn't imagine it back in 1990. I could never imagine it.
Me neither.
Yeah, and I mean, it's even hard for me. It's even hard for me to imagine now.
Oh yeah.
And and I pray nightly for this to disappear from this earth, man. And I question what it's going to be like for my granddaughter, and I question for what it's going to be like for a lot of people. I mean, we've lost 2 members of our family because of it. I've got I went to go do business with a guy just the other day that is from New Mexico. He's young. His dad was only 62, and he just lost his dad. Never had any idea that he had gotten COVID, and until they came to get him with the ambulance, and that was it. And I didn't even know what to say to him or how to even talk about that, But I mean, it has affected our lives in ways that we would never comprehend. And to me, the whole commentary on it is not really whether or not we wear it. It's just on, man, how sad of a situation it is that we've gotten to this point in this world. And
that's the point.
That's
the point I'm trying to make there is look, you can have your personal opinion about wearing a mask. I do. So does my wife. You can have your personal opinion on the effects of coronavirus or COVID-19, and you can have your opinion as to how we react to it or whether or not you want to take a vaccine. The point is the thing's been politicized to a point in which, like going back to this 1990 phase, I remember the days when one member of my family could be a Republican and the other member of my family could be a Democrat, and there could be some friendly banter back and forth, and it was more like an NFL rivalry. Oh, you're a Cowboys fan. Oh, you're a Broncos fan. It was along those lines. Sure, there was some heated moments, but
no hatred.
It wasn't like what it is now. Like, I've had members of my family that are so extreme one way on the political side that they won't even talk to me anymore. And you know what?
Absolutely.
That's bullshit.
That's the same commentary. That's the same commentary. How sad is it that our world has gotten to this point? And let me tell you something, Jim. I just got to live through this with my brother, man. If you're in a hospital and you don't know if you're going to be seeing tomorrow, you don't give a crap about what those people's you don't have absolutely could care less about any of it. And that's one thing I love about my crew, man. I mean, you take a look at, me, Gilbert, the Mafia, Cole, Chav, all of us are different as far as how we check mark what political party we belong to, our religions, our ages, our sizes, our nationalities.
You guys argue over who the Venezuelan mafia's boss is. Come on, you guys got to get this figured out. There's no leadership over there.
Oh man, dude,
Bill stated it on the podcast, man. Bill came out and said
it. He did, but he's like, I'm not going to assign anybody boss 1 or boss number 2 anymore.
Look, I am the friggin' leader of the mafia. I have said it. I'll say it again.
I swear, I think it's Chav, man. Chav sits back there, man, and it's like,
that's a good point, Guy. He just kind of sits back. Yep, it's like he's pulling the strings. Yeah, you betcha.
Those boys that followed me around the woods for 5 years, I know who the leader is, man. But the thing is, man, it all comes about. Look, we can have conversations and we become better because of those conversations. Do we have our opinions? Absolutely, we have our opinions. But does that mean that we're going to stop caring about each other because they're different, or we can't have those conversations, or we can't try to make each other better as a whole? That's what it's about. And I think
that's where we're at, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, but dude, it's the bigger picture. Do we care about our neighbor? Do we take care of the people down the road, or are we so caught up in our own little world and so egocentric that we could care less? And people are going, look, I am entitled. You're going to do what I do because this is what I believe in.
This is my belief. My belief is stronger than your belief, and therefore my belief is more important than your belief. Yep.
And if we're going to live like this, if we're going to live like that, get ready to lose a lot more of the things that you love and believe in, because none of us will ever be able to join hands in one common voice to ensure that we have this lifestyle, this tradition, this thing that has been going on for thousands of years. And I tell you, who knows? I mean, the way this world's going, it might be a point where you need these skill sets again throughout the world. So,
hey, there's a lot of people recently that really started considering it, and I've had conversations with people that know the freezer's full, that are like, hey man, I think I need to start hunting, and I've heard other people talk about it.
Absolutely.
Why do you guys think I live on a remote mountain in North Idaho? I mean,
yeah.
Well,
because you're smarter. You're smarter than the average bear.
No. I promise I'm not smarter. I'm just more leery than the average bear. I think is the correct term. But
here's the thing too, Tim. Today you got 3 men on here that are talking about this. How everybody talks about hunting, how it's becoming, and I know I'm hitting another rabbit hole here, but how it's becoming a rich white man's sport, man. That
I've heard that.
We're not inclusive. It's about in fact, I just read something on this today about how a lot of politicians like to have prop pieces shot with them hunting, because it gives the feel of them being masculine and strong and those types of things. Again, the whole masculinity part of it. I mean, I mean, all of this stuff. Are we guilty as charged? Are we being inclusive? Are we pulling people around us in instead of closing them out? And look, I could, my own brothers, man, they hunt down in South Texas, right? And, when I first heard, they were like, yeah, you got to come down and hunt whitetail with us, and, they sit in stands and they have feeders. And right away in my mind, man, I was judgmental of that, right?
Yeah, I've been guilty of that too.
And I'm like,
that. Yep.
Yeah. And look, it might not be my thing, but it's perfectly legal. And I tell you what, until I went down there, I never understood the fact that you'd never kill a deer in that country if you didn't have a feeder, man. Yeah. And then I even take it to a further sense, when I think about it, like people that, they put out water or things like that. But yet as hunters, we wait by water holes, or, we wait by agricultural things for them to come over a fence, or we call them off private. I mean, look, you can pick your poison and you can expand it to suit whatever it is you like, or you could get very narrow-minded. But the thing is we are all doing the same thing in one sense or another.
And we have to,
even if you were to take a look at people that are vegan, or that want crops, or that land had to be tilled, animals had to be pushed off of it. It's no longer, animals lost their lives that lived on there, whether they were mice, moles, or whatever. Creatures ended up being displaced from that. We all are doing the same thing in a sense, but yet we're all sitting in judgment of each other. And I think that's probably the one thing that we need to look at most of all.
So there was a study done, and I forget, I had read it on Psychology Today. This is a while ago I read it, so excuse me if I'm paraphrasing or I do bad. So instead of us looking at method of take, or what, the one that kills me is the camo. What camo or 6'5", the 6'5" Creedmoor guys and gals or whatever, right? And we look at it as it was put in this article or this essay on Psychology Today. They classified us into sex based on achievement, affiliation, appreciation, goals. And I think there was a couple more in there, right? And Jim, going back to what you were saying, they do troll us, and that's how a lot of that essay was written, was research from forums and social and things like that. So you think, if you read it, you'll see the bias, in my opinion, as to those researchers and where they stood on the hunting, anti-hunting line. Anywho, maybe if we started looking at our commonality and highlighting our commonalities, right, in those achievement, affiliation, appreciation goals, that we could blur or erase that line in the sand, if you will, and get rid of some of that divide, right? Instead of thumping our chest all the time,
Yeah.
Because at the end of it, it's really the same game. And I got buddies on the East Coast and listeners on the East Coast and the Midwest and the South. And man, I am the first one to crack on a tree stand thing. But I immediately go to, I couldn't do it because I do not have the patience to sit up in a tree for 13 hours on a day.
And those guys, that's how they were raised hunting, right? And so that's exactly what they know. And you make an excellent point, man. And I've talked about this in the past too, where it is when we strip away all the things that you just mentioned, like camo, region, whether you're in a tree stand or you're on a public mountain somewhere with a bugle tube, all those things. When you strip all that away, what is the end goal? What is the common thing that we all love? We do, and not to use that euphemism that you were talking about. For me, it's three things that hunters all have in common. A is a freezer full of meat. B is something to display on the wall as a memory as to what happened on the third thing, which is the adventure of getting that animal there, right? In my opinion, those are the three things. And not everybody is looking for a big rack or anything. So don't anybody, come at me with that. I like shooting, when I get a small buck, I keep those antlers. In fact, last year I cut them off and I made these cool things for my daughters with them. So I don't want anybody to mistake that for me talking about how everybody has this common goal of being a trophy hunter. That's not what I'm saying. But you can't tell me that if you go out and somehow put yourself in front of a giant bull elk or a giant mule deer buck or a huge whitetail, that you're not going to be proud of that set of antlers. Don't lie to me.
Think about it.
Everybody's going to.
Right? Everything we do, even in that trophy hunting, right? Even just in those two words, we're offering a divide.
Exactly. And that's what we need to prevent.
Animal, right. Every single animal that you shoot is a trophy to you, right? This sounds so cliche and blah, blah, blah. But
I don't know, man. I shot a mule deer this year I was super disappointed about, so I don't know if I can call it a trophy.
Right,
but there was a trophy element to it, right?
Yes, exactly, right. So let's get rid of the
term trophy hunter needs to go.
Just get rid of the labels. I hate
I know exactly what you're saying, Guy.
So let me ask you a question. When our kids play in sports, are they trophy athletes? When we go get a job, are we a trophy worker? And everything we do in life, we've been taught to try to excel to a highest point of receiving something that is special to us.
Yeah,
based on our efforts.
That we do. Yeah, and so
man, you got a way of simplifying things in a way that I just can't do in my mind.
That's old man wisdom, buddy.
To me, what I have, when they say trophy or sport, if any of that, it relates to the American way of thinking. I have people every day, there are millions and millions of kids that are put in, these sports programs to try to win that trophy. Everybody watches, millions of people watch football because they want to see that team hoist that trophy at the end. They live through their moments. And I'm not saying that that's, for myself, whether it's this tooth that I wear around my neck of the last hunt that me and one of my friends that I lost honors him, or whether it's a beard that I hang on in a place that I see every day from a turkey that I took that was one of incredible hunts that I had there, or whether it was a photo I took of a meal that I made that was made out of elk. It's the same thing that's honoring that moment. That's a memory that you have, whether it's a story, a podcast, a book, all of those in their own way are a trophy. It's a way of memory, keeping a memory. It's a way of holding on to. And this has gone on since as long as man. Our own Native Americans, that honor their hunts and their memories and their strength and their power that they did in certain things.
Sketch them on the cliffs of the walls.
Absolutely.
So
or
is
wear
that
feathers or different things.
generally,
yes, absolutely, man.
So generally speaking, would you say that those three things that I laid out there, the meat, the trophy, and the adventure are kind of a common thing that all hunters can relate to?
You know what I hear, and let's take the full freezer out of it, right? Let's talk about the psychological, if you will, parts of it, right? The camaraderie, you know what I mean? The mental endurance, the mental fortitude that it takes.
All that
to
falls
get
under
through some of
adventure,
that.
though. What I'm trying to do is yes, in my mind, it is part of the adventure. Well, I'll give you a great example. When I was in the Marines and we went to Iraq, right? We were one of the first units to cross that line of departure and go from Kuwait into Iraq. And we're doing this. This was this big adventure filled with camaraderie, filled with dangerous scenarios, filled with all these things that make up a war that I don't even want to get into. But when I think of that, there was this level of excitement prior to going that mixed with fear and all these other things that play into it. But the camaraderie and it's all part of the adventure. And especially for men, but humans, they want that. They need the adventure. I'm not saying we all need to go to war, but I'm talking about we need some kind of adventure. That's why there's so many things to do. Some people get their adventure from mountain biking. Some people get their adventure from, jumping out of airplanes with a parachute. Whatever the adventure is, or adrenaline rush, or whatever you want to call it, it all boils down to these three things that we're looking for, and adventure is part of that. And then the adventure is the one, however, you can expand into multiple different things. And the point I'm trying to make is if somebody goes out to a high fence elk hunt and they because they don't know anything about public land elk hunting, right? They go out and they pay the money. They've got the means to go on a high fence elk hunt. Their end goal is to get the trophy, the meat, and the adventure. In their mind, that is an adventure. And when I go out, or Joe goes out, or you go out, Guy, and we're out on public land, non-guided, doing it ourselves kind of thing, going through the motions, and what is our end goal? It's the same damn thing. Our adventures may be defined a little bit differently, but the outcome is the same. And so where it doesn't interest me to go on a high fence hunt at all, I'm not going to knock the guy that does.
Okay,
does that make sense?
It does, but let's distinguish here, right? Because you have a private land hunt and then you have a high fence, right? When you're saying high fence, are you
I'm talking about a legitimate high fence hunt where there is pretty much a 99.99999% chance you're going to tag out.
Yeah,
not just a regular public land hunt. I have public land
I think there's differences there, and the reason I want to say that is because I feel like you'll get a lot of grief if you don't distinguive.
Oh yeah,
the difference between a PLM hunt.
But you could throw that third element in there. The goal is still the same for somebody hunting private land. I mean, I have private land. I hunt on it, and that does not guarantee me a notch tag. That is for sure. What I'm talking about,
it's about opportunity.
Yes, it's about opportunity. And how we define the adventure in our own mind. I get a lot more fulfillment by going out into the wild and tracking down an elk in September and calling one in, right? And so there's no argument with that. But what my point is the end goal is the same as it is for some fella that has a lot more money than I do that can afford to go on some high fence hunt and shoot a 400 class bull that has never left a 50-mile radius, right? I'm not going to knock that guy. And that's what we tend to do as hunters, and it serves nobody and it serves nothing. And I guess that's the point I'm trying to make. Yeah,
and there's a reason and a place for all of it, and everybody has to, within themselves. It's like when people ask me, what is the maximum distance somebody should shoot their bow? That's not for me to decide, man. I don't know their effective range. I don't understand their strengths and their weaknesses. Only they do. And it's just like anything else like that. If somebody is paying whatever they pay to go get a gold bull in a high fence situation, I don't walk in their shoes. I don't know why. I don't know what their reason, or right away we could throw out the easiest thing is to go, well, it's for ego, man. They just want to go get a giant bull and pay whatever they want to do for it. Well, look, it's none of my business really. I know that animal cannot be put into a poke and young because it's not fair chase. But that's the reason we have those definitions. I don't know why that person would do it. I don't know if that person has some kind of physical weakness, or if they have some kind of disability, or if whatever reason, I don't walk in their shoes. That's for them to have to face either those positives or those demons once that happens. And maybe that is going to be growth within their life and something that they have to face. I believe there's a reason for everything in this world. And it's not for me to figure out what Jim's reason is. It's not mine to figure out what Guy's reason is. Both of you guys are on your own journey, and you're going to have peaks and valleys in it, and you're going to have to learn from it. You're going to have to face your demons, and I'm not going to be able to do that for you. So, all we can do is try to hope that people have that opportunity in what other shape or form it takes to be able to find out those things in life. You were asking about those three things. For me, Jim, it was culture and tradition. It was about the challenge, and it was about something that I understood and was passionate about, and that was being in the outdoors and taking the trail that most people don't, man. I've always been the person with that unicycle mentality that wanted to do things that people said couldn't be done. And at the same time, I gained respect by putting food on that table. And it was about respect for me as a hunter, as a man, as a father, as a parent, as a teacher. It was about all of that tied into it as one. That's what I got out of it. And if that's ego, I got to tell you, I'm as guilty as anybody that likes people to feel like, hey, yeah, that guy can do that.
Yeah,
they're pretty good at it.
We all do.
Yeah.
Anybody who says they're not is lying.
Yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, man, everything I do in my life is based on the lessons that I learned in those outdoors. And it taught me a lot of things. And it taught me not to give up. And it really taught me about the importance of life, because I've been there. I've been there next to my animal. I've been to those, beside those animals when they've had their last breath. I've taken that in, and I understand it. And there was compassion for it, and there was thanks for it. And, I don't know that a lot of people can understand that. I don't know that they can understand that for full circle and what it means to me, But so that's not for me to make them understand. I can teach them and I can share. And if they don't understand that, it is what it is. That's all I can tell you.
So based on what we were just saying, right? We'll talk about, and I'll talk about me, and then just listening to that and the thought that came up, right? For me, high fence hunting, right? If we're talking about, 4 sides enclosed, 8-9 foot fence, call it a co-op deer somewhere down in Texas, and that's what they do, right? I'm not talking about free range jumping fence lines or nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
Let it out at that feeder 2 days before. I'm not with it. Like at this point in my hunting career, I'm not with it. But as you were talking and Jim was talking, and I thought to myself, if that was the only way that I could hunt, would I? Right. So if we want to have that course correction, right, put your feet on that shoe. Would you do it if that was the only way that you could hunt? I would guarantee that 97 to 98% of folks are going to say, yeah, I'm doing it, if money wasn't an issue.
For sure.
And Jim, if you don't mind, can we go? I'd like to go back to the ego thing, right? So you brought that up earlier, and Joe hit on it pretty strong, but it keeps coming back up. And I think addressing, there's different types of ego in this, right? And hear me out for a sec, and then chime in. So you have the generational type guy, right? That was brought up in hunting. It was almost a rite of passage when dad or granddad handed you that rifle, and you went out and you did it on your own that first time. Right now you're 12 years old. Boy, you sit in this stand, or you sit in this blind, or you go up this ridge.
That was me, bro.
Yeah, and that's the rite of passage, right? Mm-hmm. There's gonna be a level of chest thumping there. That ego comes in. I'm a man now. how does that translate into the newer hunter? And is there an issue with the ego being, let me get this buck or bull or whatever it is so I can snapshot this and experience that chest thump, right? And I think a lot of where we damn social media is in that realm, right? Where it's the, like, I don't know that it's ego driven. Is it really an ego thing, or is this an accomplishment thing? Where do you guys stand on that? Because I think we've said it's ego a lot. It's
simply put, like you said, there's different types of ego. The ego that is normal and natural and I think healthy is what you were talking about. It boosts our ego when we come of age and we're given the freedom to go hunt on our own, and if we achieve success, that it's the same kind of victorious feeling that you'd get if you were, a high school football team that just won the state championship, right?
Intrinsic value.
Intrinsic value. Great. Yeah. That's a great way to say it. And so that's the healthy ego that is playing into it. And in my mind, there's also an unhealthy ego, and I've been guilty of this where, I've exaggerated a hunting story, right? It was when I was younger. I sucked. I still suck at hunting, but I was terrible. I was a terrible hunter. But do you think that when I was sitting around in the bar talking to some other hunter at the bar, I sat there and I said, hey, I'm a terrible hunter. I suck at this. No, I was like, oh yeah, I'm back out there and I took a 400-mile shot. Yeah, whatever. And I think that I recognize that and realize that that's the unhealthy side of it before social media hit, and then social media hits. And I think that, and again, I know I rag a lot on social media, but a lot of negativity comes out of it, and a lot of the infighting that we're talking about comes out of it, and a lot of the unhealthy ego side of it comes out of that. And it is, like, I don't think it's an unhealthy thing to post a grip and grin picture of the buck you just killed, or elk or whatever. But I do think that there is an element of, or a percentage of, folks that go out and maybe exaggerate their experience on social media for the sake of social media. Does that make sense?
Okay, so maybe we're not using the right word then, right? Because ego is just a sense of your self-esteem or
that's a good point. That's a good point. Maybe we're not using ego right.
Maybe it's braggadocious, or I don't know. But is that
what would be the word for somebody who wants nothing to do with meat or the holistic lifestyle that is hunting, but wants a picture holding a giant bull elk, right? What would be the term for that? Because I know when Joe posts a picture of a bull elk, or when Guy, you recently posted a picture of a buck. I think you'd got. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
I look at that, and for me, that is a culmination of what your lifestyle is, right? This is what you've worked for and you've committed to, and that is not a braggadocious thing, in my opinion. And I'm happy for you, and I'm happy to see it, and I want you guys to do that. I react differently if it's somebody that I feel like isn't really, like, I'll give you a great example, and I'm not going to use his name, but I follow this dude, and he's got a big following, and he's got a big podcast, and all that kind of stuff. He's got a very specific message on his platform, and I thought he was a really cool dude. And he just got into hunting, like, I don't know, a year or 2 years ago, and he goes out, and all of a sudden he's posting this picture of this giant whitetail buck he'd shot. Just like massive. This thing is unrealistic. You'd never see that in North Idaho. That kind of buck. It's just one of those, Midwest kind of type kind of bucks. Anyway, huge. And I'm all excited at first, but then he kept posting pictures about it, and it was the nature of which this is a very brand new hunter, very beginner. he didn't mention the fact that I was able to gather or just gather from the pictures that this was not like some crazy big time hunt he went on and did by himself or anything along those lines. But he created the perception that it was.
Okay, but
does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. So, okay, back to what Joe was saying. Why does it matter? If it's legal, ethical, responsible, why does it matter?
It doesn't. It doesn't. What I'm being
proud of it.
What I'm asking is what is that defined as? And because that is something that is. It's hard to explain because it doesn't matter to me. I can care less if the guy goes and pays money to have a guy take him out on private land. Don't care.
Not true, dude. You do care.
I care. I care about how it is perceived or represented.
By other people.
I care about how it is portrayed by that individual. Like, just admit it, man.
But that's like me. That's like me asking Joe about the mask, and I got to wear a mask thing. If that's his choice, that was his pursuit, his animal. Why does it effing matter? That's like me, right? I want to go, and I've been there. I got a freaking hunting platform. I talk about elk all the time. I love elk, and I can't kill a goddamn elk to save my life in the last 3 years, right? And not for lack of effort. Right?
No, I know.
But I make choices. I make choices in the elk woods, and I've had people say, "Dude, just shoot an elk. Just shoot a rag." No, it's not. That's not what I'm there for. I am not there to appease Jim or Joe or anybody else out there. And I think the problem is, and this is where I'm going to agree with your stance, is the problem is that we're highlighting shit to, excuse my language, because Joe is on, we're highlighting things to appease people, right, that don't really matter in our pursuit. Because I guarantee you that half the people you're trying to impress ain't going to be that excited for you because you killed a 380 bull, right? You're going to have you're going to have your real folks, but then you're going to have the folks that are going to criticize every single mother effing thing about the photo, about what you really did, about where it was at, about the gear you used, right? So if we want to blur the line in the sand, right, we cannot do that to each other.
Yeah.
We cannot. We absolutely can't. I could give a shit if you walk across the road and you shoot that bull, right? Does that make you any less because you didn't go and pack in for 24 days or you didn't go, and I ain't doing this shit, 12 miles in the back country, right? That's the kind of opinion that come. Come out of that.
It's a great point you're making, and that I agree with you. I think what I was getting at was where's that line where it's like healthy ego versus unhealthy ego, and we kind of got down a rabbit hole.
I can tell you this, Jim. So either way it is, us as humans, when you talked about that, I didn't necessarily feel bad for the people that see that picture. The person that I concern more than anything is that individual, because that's something that they're going to have to learn on their own, and that's something that they're going to have to face, and that's things that they're going to have to think about. And some people sleep great at night and they don't worry about that stuff, but there's a lot of people that do, and it takes time, it takes maturity, it takes perspective, it takes going through that and then having to maybe say, I ain't going to do that crap for other people. And I've heard so many people, I heard Garrett just the other day on Guys, man, and he's like, Garrett's like, I don't want to be that guy anymore. I don't want to be doing this. I want to be doing what makes me happy, and some of that stuff was really cool for a little while, but that's not who I am. And that's maturity. That's going through life and figuring things out. And really, when I see somebody that shoots a nice animal behind the high fence, and I look at another guy and I go, yeah, but that was behind the high fence. I wasn't doing that to put him down. I was doing that to make that guy maybe think I'm better than that person. So again, there's that unhealthy ego, right? And I think that's, that guy shot it with this gun, or, that guy's shooting at 1,600 yards, he's not really a hunter if he's doing that. Screw that. I'm just trying to, again, put down those people in this same community to make myself feel better. And we got to stop it. We've got to quit cannibalizing ourselves just to make ourselves feel a little bit bigger, a little bit better. Because what we do here is all of this, when in the end, man, ain't going to matter for a hill of beans, man. We're going to be judged by the type of person we are. What do we want to be remembered for? Do we want to be remembered for a 480, or do we want to be remembered because we helped somebody else have an incredible experience? Or
legacy,
we shared.
Man. What are we leaving?
Yeah, absolutely.
What kind of legacy?
Yeah. What are we leaving?
So all that said.
Sorry.
All that said, this is kind of laying the groundwork and some kind of foundation to build off of what we're trying to achieve by having these conversations. Which and I guess that's something we should define, this conversation that we're having. Like, what are we trying to achieve? I know that, Guy and I, a few weeks back, we created quite a ruckus with that episode.
You said you were from the beginning, right?
Yeah. And I guess that's a goal. We want to create a ruckus. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
What we want to do is we want people that maybe they don't understand how fragile this thing called hunting is in the year 2021 and almost 2022, which I can't believe. Anyway, we're coming into 2022, and I think that a lot of hunters are, and I've described it this way a million times. So for those of you listening, I apologize, but it's one of those things that repetition is what makes it sink into people's heads. Most people, most hunters, they especially like this time of year. Here it is. It's the holidays. They're gearing up for that, and their day jobs and mortgages and minivans and all these things that make up our life, that they kind of tune hunting out until it's time to go hunting, right?
Right.
Nothing wrong with that. I'm not bashing that in any way. I know a lot of people like that, and you know what? They're pretty successful hunters too. So I think that the challenge that presents is the anti-hunting movement and those that seek to take advantage of the fact that a lot of hunters turn it off for the year, or that they take advantage of the fact that we're infighting, or whatever the case is. They never sleep, where a vast majority of our demographic is asleep at the wheel. They don't have time to deal with this. They don't have time to focus on this all the time. It takes these kind of conversations to help. I'm trying to word this right. You guys know how I like to flippity flop with my wording sometimes. I think it takes these kind of conversations to kind of help wake us up. We need to be awakened to what the fragility of hunting is and what our future looks like. And that's why we're having these conversations. And I want these conversations to continue.
So the goal of why I'm here and having this conversation is for the very reason you said. Not all of us, we get caught up in our lives. Not all of us have the time and the opportunity to go out there. Yes, we can do it by supporting other groups. We can support the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, which I do. We can support the Sportsman Alliance, which I do. We can support those different things. But I'm going to tell you this, because you don't have the time when doing that, when you are out there, when you do have conversations, when you do come across those people that question your lifestyle, educate, invite, help other people understand, show your passion, share that passion, be inclusive and not exclusive. Because even though you might not have the time, this has a ripple effect. And the person that you invite, that person that you have that good conversation with, or that you share an adventure with, or that you in some way make this lifestyle a positive outlook for them, they might do that to another person, or that person might just be the one sitting in a panel that's listening and has to decide whether or not a certain bill is passed. You have the opportunity with every life you touch to be able to make a difference. And don't believe that you don't. Believe that everything and anything that you do in a positive light can then reap positiveness at some point in some place in someone's life. And it might come back to help this overall thing and protect it the way we want it to be protected. It doesn't have to be necessarily by always taking the time out to be there. Now, that's great. That's awesome. Do that if you can. But every moment that you have a chance, don't hide from what makes your life fulfilled. Share it.
Yeah. Man, I love that, Joe. You should run for president.
Boy, we'd be in a mess.
I think we'd all be forced to wear masks.
I think so, too.
You know,
Hey, bud, if I did it, you wouldn't be forced. You would want to.
We laugh about that, Joe, but I mean that is a level of persuasion that's a talent, and you do have that. And it is lacking out there. People try to force instead of persuade.
Jim, I honestly feel, man, I was told forever when I was little, man, that we're either part of the problem or we're part of the solution.
Yeah.
And, we can gripe and complain and give all this negativity. Negativity just feeds off negativity, or we can try to make it better. And why tell people they have to do something rather than asking them to try to help out? And that's all I'm saying, is we all do have a part in this. And it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be hard. It just has to be sharing. It has to be caring, and it has to be doing for people around you the way that you want to be done. And, that's the oldest rule in the book, right? And there's something said, to be said for that. We have, you and I have never physically been in the same room together, shaking hands. Same thing with Guy and myself. But look at the friendship and the bond that we've been able to create just from being able to have these conversations and to be able to support each other and to be able to call each other friends now, even without ever having that physical presence. That's pretty doggone special.
Yep.
And that comes because of how people act towards each other. And that can happen on a whole lot bigger surface than just us.
Yeah.
So
that's
to
a
your
great point.
Jim, to your point or what you were saying about the purpose of this, right? Joe said it really good there by not saying it, but also having these, we don't agree on everything, right? We have
Absolutely.
some oppositional views and stuff like that, and we get fired up about things, and there's a lot of stuff that we agree on, but being able to look, across the internet or whatever, right? Or on a phone call with your brethren, your hunting brethren, and understand that it's not all the same, and people do it for, different reasons, and they have different outlooks, and their outcomes are different, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But being able to have the conversation or respect someone's opinion and option, that's what we talk about with the mask and, the vax and all that polarizing stuff nowadays. It's the same thing in this realm.
Yeah.
We got to be able to have the conversation and laugh about the stuff and challenge each other and course correct.
Yep.
Yeah,
and I'm actually going to correct him, and not just your hunting brethren, your hunting family. Because I said fraternity the other day, and my daughter was like, "There we go, Dad. Just guys, right?" So
no, I didn't mean it like that. For me, I'm all inclusive when it comes to that.
Absolutely, man.
I think we all are, and that was
we're sensitive to words.
Yeah,
everybody is.
Words have meaning.
Yeah, and that's one of the other goals with this podcast is I do want some disagreement. I do want some different perceptions because we're like on this show, on this particular episode, we are kind of representing the entire West here, right? I mean, we've got Joe. He's down there in New Mexico. Probably doesn't even know what a snowy Christmas looks like. No, I'm kidding. You guys get snow where you're at, don't you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Because you're in the high country.
We're not going to this year though. It's dry as a bone.
I think people think New Mexico, they think the desert, right? But I will tell you, one of the cold. I think I've told you this before, Joe.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, when you were going through. Your coffee even
coming
got
through.
cold.
My coffee froze from the moment I got out of that truck stop into my truck. It was like ice on the top. That's how cold it was. It was so cold. Anyway, so we've got Joe down in New Mexico. We've got a guy over there in California with his Birkenstocks. No, I'm kidding.
Son of a bitch.
You knew I was coming with that.
I was waiting for it.
I had that fired up. It's been in the queue all day. So no, we've got a guy. He's representing from California,
and a transplanted gym up in.
And then you've got this dude living in a wall tent up in North Idaho. No. But the point is we do have different perspectives. We hunt in different ways, in a lot of the same ways, and we hunt. We perceive things differently. We see things differently, and how we go about creating solutions may be a little bit different. But the end result is going to be the same, and that's why I want to continue having these conversations. And I know we're running super long. We got to wrap this up here, but this is essentially what we're going to continue talking about as we go through the winter, and we're going to start formulating solutions that make sense and are easily achieved. And by easy, I mean it's participatable. Is that a word, Joe? You were the teacher, right?
Participatable. Hey, if you say it, it's a word, right?
I think
out of your mouth.
If you know what, who needs a Webster dictionary? Listen to the Western
Nowadays,
Huntsman.
they invent words all the time.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Participatable.
If it's not now, it will be next week.
Okay, so I'm going to invent the new word, participatable. It's
Hey,
everybody can participate, no matter their means or their amount of time they have. I want to make it whatever solutions and ideas we can come up with, I want everybody to be able to participate. Participatable.
Yep. Oh, you're mind. Do you know what verulaques are?
Say that one more time.
Verulaques.
No.
Have you ever heard the?
Guy,
have you heard the guys
that you wear?
You've heard the Venezuelan mafia say they get the verulaques?
Yeah. I have heard them say that. Yep. Okay.
The shakes.
Yeah. They get the verulaques, man. That's like buck fever or something like that. Well, it's so funny. It's a complete made up word in Spanish, but everybody now associates it with buck fever. So.
Verulaques.
Is it seriously? Is that made up?
Yeah, it's totally made up, man. It sounds like what it is, but it's not a real world. It was created by.
Okay.
That's pretty fantastic.
It was created by Manano's dad.
God, those guys. Man, I gotta tell you, those guys, the delivery they have on some of the stuff they say, they crack me up. Like.
Oh, they're too much, man. You gotta love them.
Hilarious. Man. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Check this out, guys. So the other day, a friend of mine used to work for me, asked me to go to lunch, and we're at lunch, right? He's like, "Man, you've been hunting?" And I was telling him, I just went out, blah blah blah, and we're talking. He's like, and this guy, I've seen him come around, right? He's like, "Yeah, that's crazy. I couldn't kill a deer, and no guns, blah blah blah." And he's like, "Oh, boss, what gun should I get? And how's that? And he, you got any venison in the freezer?" And we're sitting there talking. And he's Hispanic, and I said, "Yeah, man, you get to that point where the vitiligo's kicked in," and he kind of looked at me puzzled. And no wonder it's not even a real freaking word.
Look at this dude trying to. What is he trying to say to me? Hey, you're lucky it wasn't like a bad word that they.
The damn DM mafia would make up freaking words.
That's how they get you, man. The Venezuelan mafia. That's how they strike.
That is too funny.
Yep.
Oh, it's hilarious, man.
No,
but I hear so many people using it now that have listened to us. It's hilarious. Yeah.
I thought I had something going on there. I was relatable. I thought I was being relatable to him.
Jack, that's funny, man.
That's
great. Hilarious, dude.
Oh my God.
Hey, I hope we ruffled some feathers today. I hope we did.
I'm sure we
did. A whole lot of emails, man. I can think of something to say to ruffle it. Oh, before we go, I'll just say this, man. Corners in Montana. Is it Montana or Wyoming that's going through the Wyo? Yeah. So,
no. Wyoming.
Yeah, Wyoming. Yeah.
What did I say? Wyoming.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Wyo.
Wyo.
I got you. I get you. Sorry about that. I'll shut up.
Yeah, so public use of corners, man. Public use of corners.
Yeah.
So that might rile some feathers.
It might, but I mean, people need to know about it, and I think it speaks to none of us are residents in Wyoming, but we're all three aware of it, and and that's I think it can be a burden, guys, to you folks listening. It can be a burden, but this is the kind of stuff we got to keep up on because we have to support each other. We all have to carry the weight on our shoulders of everything outdoorsman that we do. The fly fishermen, with the bow hunters, with the rifle hunters, with the trappers, with everything that goes into this kind of lifestyle. If we allow one thing to fall apart, it's like this chemical makeup. One of the molecular, whatever you call it. What am I, a scientist? Falls out of this thing. We don't have a makeup anymore. We don't have what it is that makes it us. And so we have to all work together, and that's the point of these conversations. I guarantee you we've ruffled some feathers, and I'm okay with that. I think that the point and the goal of bringing these things to light is going to be achieved, and as we carry these conversations on, we're going to find a way that exemplifies the fact that ruffled feathers or not, we're still a family, we're still hunters, and that is the goal. That is the goal. We might have a different road as to how we get there, but the road is going in the same direction, and we've got to get there. Otherwise, our future is in jeopardy, and we do need to recognize the fragility of our hunting future. And that's with that, guys. You got any closing thoughts? Anybody that wants to wrap this up?
Yeah, man. Let's make that 10%. Get it back up to 20%. Be inclusive.
Yeah.
Be inclusive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll say what I said earlier, right? Think about the future. The only way that we're going to get there is together. If we stay divided, we're gonna lose that argument about the corner crossing, whatever side of that you're on. And then Jim, I'd like to, since we're going to be are we doing monthly? Did we decide if we're
let's do monthlies. Yeah. Let's do this monthly.
So let's give a little. I want to tackle on our next one, and I think we can bring Garrett in on that one because he had expressed some wanting to ramble or vent or rant.
Yeah.
I want to talk about hunter opportunities as residents and the views on hunter opportunities with out-of-state hunters. I think it's a great one.
Yeah.
Be a great conversation to fire it up and really look at where we stand. I know Idaho has some differing opinions. California doesn't really see too many out-of-state hunters. We do, but the numbers aren't anything like it. And I think Garrett could chime in on some of that with some of his. So, I'd like to talk about that. The next one, just to give everybody kind of a.
That's a great one. I don't think you could find a more contentious issue than that. So let's plan on that and let's talk about it and bring it up. I think that's a great conversation. So. This conversation and the one you and I did last month, Guy, I think were the two that just kind of set the stage for the rest of these conversations. Joe, would you be willing to come on in the future and have another one of these conversations?
Absolutely.
And so we've always got that in our pocket. I think you guys both have
we got to
just
do
have
it on
a
grandpa
lot.
Time.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do it at grandpa time.
We got to find a topic that gets Joe off his rocker a little bit.
Yeah,
find something that just get like.
He's not nearly as emotional about stuff as we are, man. And I have to watch my mouth when he's on.
Yeah, smooth and
just cool as a cucumber. Cool as a cucumber at all times.
I have to find something that jabs at that SOB.
Dude, you guys don't. It's a good thing we're not on camera because you don't see me over here beating my chest and flipping you off and all that stuff.
Joe
Giglia doesn't flip the bird to anybody. Come on.
No, he's flipped me off.
Yeah, California. I thought that was a California howdy, bro. I thought I was being nice.
Oh man.
California salute. That's about it.
All right. Yeah. Well, I appreciate it, guys. I'm gonna stop this recording here. Thanks again for joining me on this one. Guy, you gonna put this out on yours too, or?
I'll wait. You still haven't sent me the first recording yet, SOB.
Oh man, I actually have something to admit with that.
Don't tell me you lost it.
I did. Now, I can't.
Oh, you don't want to share the love. So
no, I do. I went to send it to you, and I noticed that. Well, let me stop this recording, and I'm going to explain it, because I might have a way to revive it. Guys, thanks for tuning in. We had
absolutely, man.
I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you guys, those of you listening. Thanks for tuning in and listening. Make sure you're checking out the ElkBros on Instagram and Western Contours on Instagram. Gosh, I can't even spit this out straight. Western Fly Covers on Instagram. And yours truly, the Western Huntsman. It's all on Instagram. Thanks again, guys. That was a great talk.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
You made it all the way to the end. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. We sure appreciate your support. This is Jim Huntsman signing off and reminding you to check us out at Instagram at The Western Huntsman and on Facebook at The Western Huntsman. And you can also check out the website at thewesternhuntsman.com. Thanks again. We'll see you guys next time. Stay Western, and I'll see you on the mountain.